We live in a world ruled by tyranny, where knowledge is suppressed and ignorance is glorified. A world where propaganda and misinformation travel the airways at the speed of lies. But in the midst of the violence and chaos, a great awakening is taking place. And as the media empires continue to collapse, a new network is forming. A network of truth, a network of courage, a network of awareness. Peace and greetings. You are now tuned into the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, where we examine current events, politics, health, finance, and topics of cultural relevance in America and throughout the world, while bringing you insightful interviews with guests that will both educate and inspire you. And now, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, Aura the Informationalist.
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
My aura is a network full of awareness and gifts like Aura, the informationalist.
How you doing?
Peace and greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Peace and greetings to all the people that are aware. Shout outs to all my Network of Awareness. You're tuned into a live broadcast of the Network of Awareness. And we're broadcasting live from YouTube, Facebook, and from Twitter. So whoever gets to join, great. If you don't, get to listen later and download the show wherever podcasts are played. Now, today's show is not being broadcast. Today's show is not being broadcasted on Spreaker at the moment live, but it will be available on Spreaker and on all podcast platforms after the show is over. So give it about 15 minutes for that to happen after we end this broadcast today. So I can see that I put the wrong banner here, people. Give me 1 second. There we go. So today's show is an installment of the Narcissism Series, and I'm joined by my brother from the same Heavenly Father, Ahban, to go over mirroring. Mirroring is a psychological tactic. It's a psychological tactic that many narcissists use, but it's a psychological tactic that many people use. But I call it the manipulation of familiar persuasion. And people, I can tell you that I have a vast amount of experience in manipulation. I have a vast amount of experience in marketing and sales. I took a lot of my manipulation skills and put them on the rack. But I might be taking them off the rack soon for some of the things that I'm about to get into. And I'm not talking about this broadcast. I'm talking about things that I'm going to be getting into the future that I might have to pull a lot of those tools and gifts and abilities that I put on the rack and bring them back for some things that I'm going to be doing in the very near future. And in today's episode, Ahban and I are going to take an in-depth look at what this mirroring is, which it's a behavior in which one person subconsciously imitates the gestures, speech patterns, or attitude of another. Mirroring often occurs in social situations, particularly in the company of class of friends, family, often going unnoticed by both parties. The concept often affects other individuals' notions about the individual that is exhibiting the mirroring behaviors, which can lead to the individual building rapport with others. So we're going to go deep into this. I'm going to give you some, I'm going to talk about some experience that I've had with this and seeing this with people and some of the situations I've been in, as well as looking into researched information and just taking a really in-depth examination into what mirroring is, especially when it's used as a tactic and its behavior that a narcissist will use to gain favor and trust and loyalty from you. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you to the Network of Awareness and on this installment of the Narcissism Series. So let's start the show, shall we?
Oh, yeah.
Peace and greetings to you, brother. Welcome to the show. Any introduction you want to give? Any updates? Feel free to do so.
Okay. All right. Giving all praises to the Most High through Christ. Just want to thank the Most High in Christ for letting us come out here this time to go over another aspect of narcissistic, manipulation tactics that are prevalent in the world because everybody is so ego driven. And we hope that this class goes out, and encourages people to, at least consider their ways and come back to the Lord. You got me kind of worried because you're taking your you said you're taking your manipulation tactics off the shelf, and then I see you in the wife beater. I'm wondering what's going on here. You starting a family or something? I mean, what's going on, bro? Yo, man. Okay, all right, yeah. Let's do the class, bro. I guess.
Now, listen. I as far as me having the the tank top that I like to go, I don't like to use those derogatory terms.
Okay, A-line shirt. Okay, A-line.
Belittling, the strong women out here that raising kids and families, especially our sisters in the faith. Okay. But I'm in Florida, so it's comfortable sometimes. Especially when it's hot. Today's a hot day. So,
Yeah, well, I'm in Buffalo, bro. I don't know anything about hot as far as this time of the year.
I'm surprised you're not wearing a turtleneck. So
yeah, I just took it off, bro. I got the heat on in the house.
As far as like taking out the manipulation tactics, I'm gonna have to. It's kind of like a necessary evil, so to speak, for some of the things I'm gonna be getting into when it comes to business. It's just something I have to do, it is what it is. It's not like I'm going to be using it to take advantage of people, but I'm going to have to use it in order to have success in some of the ventures that I'm going to be getting into. It just comes with the territory. It's like having armor. It's like having armor in spiritual warfare. And if you don't have that armor, it's like you might as well not even go out for battle because you're done.
Well, yeah, the scriptures do say be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. So, it's good to, be given that sight to understand when people are trying to manipulate you, and then, you act accordingly to Christ and then, commit your works to the Most High and they'll work it out for you. And then when those people that's trying to manipulate you off in I forget what they call it. It's like you on the highway, then it's the shoulder, and then it's that part that goes down. It's like the ditch or whatever. When they're off there and you're still going on down the highway, maybe they'll figure it out,
Right. Well, today's topic is mirroring. Now, this is not sometimes a bad thing, and we're going to go into that because, I looked it up on Wikipedia, right? And I read some of it in the beginning of the broadcast. And it also states that mirroring is a distinct from conscious imitation under the premise that while the latter is conscious, typically over effort to copy another person mirroring is unconsciously done during the act and often goes unnoticed. It also states that it has also been described as the chameleon effect.
Mm.
Okay. And everybody knows if you don't know what a chameleon is, a chameleon can blend and can basically camouflage itself on different parts of nature. It can make itself look like a tree, it can blend itself into the grass and so on and so forth. Also, it says the display of mirroring often begins as early as infancy, as babies begin to mimic individuals around them and establish connections with particular body movements. The ability to mimic another person's actions allows the infant to establish a sense of empathy and thus begin to understand another person's emotions. The infant continues to establish connections with other individuals' emotions and subsequently mirror their movements. Mirroring can establish rapport with the individual who's being mirrored, and the similarities in nonverbal gestures allow the individual to feel more connected with the person exhibiting the mirrored behavior. As the two individuals in the situation display similar nonverbal gestures, they may believe that they share similar attitudes and ideas as well. Mirror neurons react to the cause mirror neurons react to and cause these movements, allowing individuals to feel a greater sense of engagement and belonging with the situation. So let me start off by saying that when I was in a particular company for a pretty long time in corporate America, there was something called the McCabe nod. Now, unconsciously, you and I were doing it yesterday. And I want to share I'm going to share something on the screen here.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull it up. I just want to share the cover for today's episode, just to give people a little snippet as to what they'll see for the artwork on the podcast cover, but it's also going to be the thumbnail for this particular episode. And it's a basic picture, but I think that it's pretty good. So can you see that?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. So this is mirroring. It's like you're looking at yourself. And it's a way for somebody that you're dealing with to feel comfortable with what you're doing. So my thing is this. Oh, you know what? Listen, I got to give all love and praises and say, Most High in Christ bless my cousin David. My cousin David's actually watching this episode, so giving all praises. So in this particular situation with mirroring, there's something called the McCabe knob, right? It's something that I learned a long time ago in corporate America. And basically, brother, what it is like you and I were doing it unconsciously yesterday when we were going over scriptures with The, and when The was talking, you and I were going like this. Remember? We was like this. It's like, oh, okay. Now, when you're in sales or marketing, especially when you're having a face-to-face interaction with somebody, the McCabe knob is a gesture of a nod, but it has to come at very precise and intricate moments of the conversation. And that is so that you can get the person to subconsciously and consciously simultaneously agree with the statement that you're making in order to persuade them to make a decision in what you're selling, so that they feel more comfortable with you. Because the more you're getting them to agree with you, the better chance you have of making the sale. So the McCabe knob is exactly that. It'd be like, for example, like let's say I come to your house in Buffalo, and I'm trying to sell.
Not with that tank top on.
Yeah. Well, listen. let's say I come to you in Buffalo
With a
with a suit
turtleneck.
on,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah. Okay.
turtleneck or flannel shirt, right? And let's say, for example, I'm trying to sell you some organic food that you like,
Yeah.
you know, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to get you to want to buy the organic food. Let's say I know you like what? You like strawberries. You like kale. And I say
All
something to
right.
you like, "Hey, Ahban, we both know that strawberries is really good for our skin, right?"
Yeah. Oh,
And you go
yeah.
like this. You're like, "Yeah, they is
Yeah.
good. I like to eat
Yeah.
strawberries." And I go, "Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They are good for our skin, right?"
Yeah.
Boom. Now I just got your attention. I'm
Mhm.
mirroring, I'm having you mirror me in
Mhm.
agreement with a statement that
Mhm.
I made that's quite obvious, but
Mhm.
it's going to segue into something else, which is part of the manipulation tactic. Doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean it's a negative or wicked thing. It just means that it's a tactic in order for one to use
Mhm.
to accomplish the goal, which is making a sale.
Mhm. And I notice a lot of sometimes car salesmen or other salesmen use that. They deal with the, yeah, oh, you like it? Yeah, they nod with you and they'll mimic you. And another thing, when you were talking about the infants and the toddlers, when they see things of, well, the parent is feeding them and spending time with them, wiping their butt, changing their diapers and stuff like that. So they have this respect for them. So they mirror certain activities. So when you see these videos on social media with the kids going, GD this or F that or F this, what they're doing is they're actually mirroring the parents. And sometimes when we mirror people or we are manipulated, by that, like you said, that sales tactic, we can actually end up doing things that we're not supposed to.
Right.
You know what I mean? From that sales force. Yeah, the salesman's goal is to get you into that car. So he'll mirror you, get you nodding at the same time, you agreeing on stuff, build up that rapport. Now it's easier to get you into that car, regardless of those payments. You know?
It's the way of the world, bro.
Yeah.
It's the way of
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
It's the way of the world, and it's been like that for a long, long time. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even in the scriptures, it talks about it where
Mhm.
this type of manipulation it's nothing new under the sun. It's been used for centuries.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
let's talk about this more right in depth
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
there's a lot of this particular practice when it comes to narcissism, it goes
Mhm.
real deep. But before we even get to that, let's talk about certain psychological techniques. There's
Mm.
one called pacing and leading to. All right. And there's certain steps that are taken. So let me pull that
Mhm.
up real quick.
Okay.
And let me take this picture down. I just
Mhm.
wanted the audience to see, you know,
Mhm.
what was there already. Okay, good. I already took the
Yeah.
picture now. All right.
You know what's it would be a good picture too. It's a meme. It's the Kermit looking in the mirror and looking back at him as dank Kermit, with the hood on and you can't see his face, but you can see his little Kermit nose sticking out.
Oh,
And
right.
yeah, Kermit is like, well, I don't think I should do that. And the reflection is saying, do it. you know, that's what that is.
Right. Well, see, in this pacing and leading, that which is another
Mhm.
name for it, okay, it's a
Mhm.
mirroring technique that is
Mhm.
a term that has been coined in psychology, and it is an easy way to connect with people around you. And you do it simply by imitating the person you are persuading. Chances are you've never been taught it, but the best persuaders use it to increase their influence in the workplace, and you should too. And like my cousin wrote in the chat room, he said he uses it every day in his business.
Mm.
Now, um, it's funny how everybody wants to call me every time I'm doing a live episode. Everybody's like they wait for me to get on this microphone so they could just start calling me back to back.
Yeah, well,
But
they're trying to pace you and lead you off the show, bro.
good segue. So,
Yeah.
a mirroring technique in psychology. How to use the mirroring technique in psychology. Okay. So, here's some tips,
Mm-hmm.
and there's 6 of them. Number 1, mirroring their breathing pattern. Have you ever done that? You ever mirrored somebody's breathing pattern?
No, not
That takes a lot.
no.
That's some to me, I would think
Yeah.
that's more in advance, but
Yeah,
according to these people, it's not.
yeah, unless we ran the 40-yard dash together or something. Did you bring that up or are you just reading it? Because I don't see it.
I
What,
can bring it up. Give me a
oh,
second here.
I was just wanted to know. I was just wondering if you were going to bring it up.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's do that.
Okay, that's the picture.
No, yeah, I know.
Okay. All right.
I gotta reshare the screen.
Oh, okay. I don't know. You was doing instant transitions yesterday, bro. You gotta still, man.
Well,
You
I
gotta
had
show
all
me
that
how to do that.
stuff. I had all that
Yeah.
stuff set. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
okay, so you can see this,
Okay.
right? It's not that big though.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
let me read it though, so people, in
Uh-huh.
case they can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it says mirroring their breathing pattern. That's number 1. Number 2, mirroring their posture and gestures. That's something that a lot of people do subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the times you don't have to be taught to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that is very, very common. Another one that I've seen a lot of that I'm gonna talk about is match their speech and emotions. I saw a lot of that with that fake ass prophet that I used to deal with. All the people that follow him.
Mm-hmm.
They used to say everything he said. I used to be like, damn, do you got any of your own vernacular? Like, do you got anything that you say by yourself? Damn.
That you know what? It's a good thing you could talk about that because we, people I was around, especially like at work, we only did that when we was ribbing on somebody. Yeah, but I could see how it could work because that's a thing, a method to get up that rapport, so to set up the manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to look at it as a form of dick riding too, because I used to just be like,
Yeah.
yo, like, do you,
Yeah.
do you really pay attention to this dude that much that you now talk like him? Matter of fact, you probably seen this back in the days too. But I saw this when I was in my early 20s. I had a friend that was a close friend of mine that his girlfriend was a super narc. To this day, she's a super narc. She's actually related to my daughter's mother. And I can only imagine how wicked she is now in her older years because she was wicked back then. And he used to talk like her. Like he used to actually make statements that we used to be like, yo, bro, like that don't sound like you. That sounds like so and so. And she was cracking that whoop on him, that she was literally molding him. And that's what she did purposefully, and it worked. You have number 4, which is check for pacing. Now, check for pacing, I'm going to presume that is the pace that maybe the conversation or the interaction is going in. So you're checking for that. Number 5 is complete the mirroring technique and move to leading. Number 6, bonus move when pacing and leading someone. How the mirroring technique helps you psychologically connect with someone. Why reasoning is rarely persuasive. Examples where you could use the mirroring technique at work. And then it says additional reading, mirroring psychology, mirroring techniques used in ancient times. Mirroring technique used in ancient times. So let's go to that. I want to go to that one first.
What?
And we're going to work our way up because I
Okay.
just read the list. And then you just feel free to chime in
Oh yeah.
at any given point. But let's go into this ancient times stuff. So it says, well, look at here.
Wow.
It's pulling scriptures. It says, for the religiously minded, here are some examples from 2,000 years ago. St. Paul in Corinthians chapter 9, verses 21 to 22 says, to those having the law, I became like one not having the law, so as to win those not having the law.
That's not what that's talking about, but go on.
To the weak, well, why don't you pull that up? All right. And then I
Yeah.
want you to share it,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you're going to share it in the King James Version. And I'm assuming that this is more of the, what do you call that? The New English Version?
Yeah, I
Because
can
you know,
go
when the
to
New English Version is always going to sound different, right? So,
yeah, I can
but I'm
go.
going to read it. To
Okay.
those
Mhm.
having the law, I became like one not having the law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak. To win the weak, I have become all things to all people, said that, so that by all possible means I have saved some. And didn't God pace us by coming to us in the form of a man? The best way to lead humans to salvation is by coming as one of us, like Christ did. The most glorious pacing and leading ever. So that's what this says as far as
Mhm.
mirroring techniques used in ancient times. But if you want to bring out 1 Corinthians chapter 9,
Oh
verses
yeah.
21 to 22, feel free to do
Okay.
so.
All
And
right.
let me
Okay. All right. I'm
post that for you.
bringing it up right now.
Look at how fast that was. See
Okay.
how
Awesome. Yeah,
now
that's what I'm
you're gonna
talking
have
about.
to make that a hell of a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. A little bit more. There you go. I
Okay.
think that's
So
about right.
1 Corinthians 9. Let's scroll down here.
21, 22.
Yeah, I'm going to start up here in 19 because this brings it out. And the point is more than just one scripture, one verse. It says, 1 Corinthians 9:19. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. So what he's talking about is he's not trying to manipulate anybody. He is a servant of Christ, and he's trying to get people to understand Christ. So he's going to come at them a certain way. He knows his audience. So he's not going to talk to somebody that's steeped in the religions and traditions of the temple in Jerusalem the same way that he would talk to someone that was, living out in the wilderness and knew that he was, of the chosen people, but had no idea about the temple and all these or the commandments or anything else. So he would know his audience so that he could present to them Christ and the understanding of living like Christ and let them make their own decision. So that's the thing. He's knowing his audience. So here in verse 20, and to the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. So the Jews, meaning the religious leaders of the people, they were steeped in the traditions of the temple and the synagogue and Moses. So he was going to go into the Old Testament and show them Christ. But he was going to talk about the commandments and all these other things, right? To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. So there are certain ways to talk to people to, because if I'm talking to someone about information technology, IT, for example, and they know all about it, and I know all about it, then I can use all these, passive frequencies and all these other terms or nomenclature, to discuss things, to say it, a lot of things with few words, but that we both understand. But if I'm a master at IT and I'm talking about IT to someone that's just starting, I'm not going to be using all these big words and these gigantic concepts that are at master level. So that's what he's talking about. Now, he said he was free from all men, so he doesn't really care because he doesn't owe any man anything. He owes Christ. All right. So here down in 21 and 22, to them that are without law, as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ. So he's telling them, listen, if you live in a totally pagan lifestyle, I can come to you in that same understanding, having that pagan understanding, although I'm not going to offend the law myself, even though that's the way I was raised up, but I'm going to try to get you to understand that you are worshiping false gods and stuff by using language and terms that you'll understand, that I might gain them that are without law. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. Meaning he was still giving people a free will choice in the matter. He was going to explain to them and show them what was going on, but he wasn't manipulating anybody.
Technically, you can say that, but he is, because he's persuading them to receive the work.
Yes, but I'm gonna give you another thing. I want to go right here. I'm gonna show you why. In the last,
But he is using a form of persuasion to reach those people.
Yes, he is, but he's not manipulating them and forcing them to follow after him. You know what I mean?
That is
Because
true.
he's giving
That's
them their
true.
choice. He's just informing, and then he lets it.
But this is the thing, brother, is that the tactic itself is a form of manipulation. Sometimes manipulation is not a bad thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But
when a narcissist uses it, it's for evil. It's for wicked.
Well, yeah, true.
But in the way that Paul is using it, Paul is using it for a goal to get these people to get an understanding of the way he's living his life and how they can start living their life in that same manner.
Yes, that's true. But here's the thing. I'm going to go to Acts 28:23. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of God. This is what he's explaining to people, regardless of their background. We just went over that in 1 Corinthians 9. Persuading them concerning Jesus, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning till evening. But check this out. And some believed the things which were spoken, and some believed not.
Right.
Okay, so it's still your choice. It's not like, okay, I'm giving you this information. I'm talking to you in the range that you're most capable of understanding in. And then from there is your choice.
Right.
Not, okay, this is what's happening. I'm going to persuade you. And now I'm using you to get gain. Because he said he was free from all men. He doesn't need anything from any man because Christ is giving him all that he needs. So that's the thing. He is persuading them. And like the scriptures say in Hebrews 10, we are supposed to provoke each other to good works and a good lifestyle, but it's not that taking and enticing and, love bombing and all of that wicked persuasion, for people to serve Christ. It's like, listen, if this is what you want to do, you do it. If you don't, you don't. You take that up with the Most High. And that's where he was at. So for them to say that he was manipulating them like a narcissist or from a narcissistic point of view, that is stretching it a little bit too far. That's like them being a line stepper or an envelope pusher.
Well, let's just keep it real. A lot of Christians are like that.
Oh yeah, because they don't really understand, because they take this narcissism and push it, into what they want, and you have people that, they get manipulated into all wearing the same types of clothes or all, say, like you said, saying the same things or saying,
well, yeah, look at the hip hop industry. I mean, it's pitiful.
Yeah, that's too, because hip hop is a church. Well, it's rap now. It's a church.
It's disgusting. It's like everybody sounds the same, is doing the same raunchy, nasty, just low level, non-thought provoking music that is garbage.
Yeah, but
they'll swear to you it's art. It's art.
But they go up and get an award. Yeah, I'd like to thank God, and
yeah, right.
Yeah, dude, God ain't got nothing to do with that. But you manipulating people. This one dude on his first album said he sold out to, be against God, and he has manipulated people into selling drugs
Yeah.
and he keeps stepping, and that's the manipulation that we have to be watching out for.
Yeah.
You know, where this dude is putting it down like this is the gospel and you don't have a choice because you're a victim and you have to sell dope. That's not the case, but people can't see it, you know, because they've been manipulated by their environment and this other dude, you know.
A lot of times when they're giving praise to God, though, the God that they're giving praise to is Satan.
Oh
That's
yeah,
not
of
a
course.
that's not a mystery. That's
Oh
been
yeah.
exposed. That's been
Oh yeah.
exposed for the past 50, 60 years now.
Exactly.
Let's
Exactly.
go back to
Mhm.
let's go back to this
Mhm.
list here because I'm going to
Yeah.
start from the top here.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to go straight to ancient times, but let's go back to the
Mhm.
top.
Mhm.
And number 1 says mirroring their breathing pattern. It says when you start mirroring someone, it must be done subtly. They should not be aware that you are consciously mimicking them. The best way to initiate mirroring technique is to synchronize your breathing pace with theirs. For practice, match their breathing rate and depth of someone near you at a meeting. Look away and then check back to see if you still timed. Soon you'll get good at this. I bet you there's people that really do this. Mirror their posture and gestures. Advance the mirroring technique to their body language and hand movements now. And if they have their arms folded and are leaning forward, you should too. If they change position, you should continue matching some of this. Give yourself about 3-second lag before you mimic an action to make it obvious. Now, this is what I was saying about sometimes this is not a bad thing. When a narcissist is using it, it is a bad thing. And we're going to get into all of that, right? Because that's the whole topic of this discussion for the narcissism series. But this is sometimes a good thing, brothers and sisters that are listening, because you can use this in a job interview. You can use this in a meeting that is meaningful to you. And if you want to gain the person's attention and have them feel comfortable with you, doing these types of things is not a bad thing. All right. Because the intentions on why you're doing it is not bad. Because it's all about intentions. Some intentions are wicked and some are righteous.
Mhm.
It really just depends on the intention on why we're doing things.
Well,
You know, because for example, I can lie,
Mhm.
right? Like I could lie to you, brother. I could be like,
Mhm.
the brothers and sisters be like, hey, we're throwing a surprise birthday party. Actually,
Mhm.
they did do that for you. They did throw you a little surprise gathering, right? I don't know if somebody
Yes.
leaked. So I'm pretty sure somebody may have leaked. But
No, it
technically,
was
from what I
cool.
was told,
Mhm.
that was a surprise. That was on the
Mhm.
hush hush. And if you would have came to me and be like, "Hey, yo, did you hear about Brother Cisco and Kakum's house?" I'd be like, "Nah, I don't know nothing about that." I'd have been lying to you, but it would have been
Mhm.
for a positive, righteous intentions on doing that. Because it's like,
Mhm.
hey, got to keep that a secret. So I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
lie so that you can actually be surprised for your birthday.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that's something for innocent reasons, but you know, the thing we have to watch out for here is like you get an example of the job interview. Two things. The second thing is since the person in human resources is handling this, they may be aware of these type of techniques and they may think of you just as a Rick Dieter, flip.
Rick Dieter.
You know what I mean? So, okay, you just trying to do this manipulation to get a job. I see it, But then number one, the thing, and I know you've seen it in the group text chat where people is like, listen, I got this test or I got this interview, send up prayers for me. I'm gonna go do my best. And then that there's a difference between when you take things into your own power, like people do this manipulation, and then when you submit yourself to the power of Christ and let them handle the situation. And even though people call themselves Christians, a lot of times they forget that part and they think that just saying they believe gives them this power to use these tactics that are generally used evilly for their own good. And a lot of times, the Most High may have mercy, but, as with anything, if our pride kicks in and we lean too much on that, then guess what? Strange calamities and we're going to get overthrown. So there's a balance in everything, but the proper balance is to first rely on the man upstairs, So,
All right, so let's go to number 3. Match their speech and emotions.
man, if somebody did this to me at the job, I would be at human resources, bro.
It says use
Harassment.
use the same tone, volume, and verbal style. Use similar words and phrases, even repeating some back. Gauge their emotional state and mimic it through your actions and words. Your mimicking should be strategic. Don't copy every action. So there is a
Oh,
science
man.
to this, apparently, based on this
Yeah.
statement. But a lot of narcissists do this. Like, for example, when I used to be in that chat room with that
Mhm,
dude, right, the false
mhm,
prophet,
mhm,
this dude used to mimic a lot of things I say. I remember the
mhm.
first time I said 2022 is the year of the Hebrew. He started saying it throughout the whole entire episodes. He would do 2022 year of Hebrew. Then I did this whole thing about the righteous tightrope on my show. Next thing you
Mhm,
know, he talking about the righteous tightrope. His wife is talking about the righteous tightrope. You know what I'm saying? And I was the
mhm,
type of person coming from the Bronx. I'm like, yo, you better give me my props. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Because
mhm,
if you hear something like what I did with Kakam, when I
mhm,
said transanity, or when
mhm,
I said narc sanity, which I
mhm,
took that from the transanity,
mhm,
I gave props to Kakam because that's the first place I heard it.
mhm,
But you got fools like this guy that was doing it, and he making everybody think that he just pulled this out of his ass or somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Then got the nerve to say that I want to be like him because he's Judah. it's, like, it's like, get out of here, bro. Like, and then he would say certain statements that people would
Mhm.
mimic him. Like he would say something like, he would say the N word, like that N word in the alley and something. And people would be like, yeah, that N word in the alley. And I used to be like, what? They'd be like, I'll stand on 10 toes. The way he's exactly the way he says it. And they would say it.
Mm,
I'd be
mm,
like,
mm,
yo,
mm.
to me, and this is just my personal opinion.
Mhm,
When I see people doing that, I look at them as weak. That's just me
mhm,
personally. When
mhm,
I see somebody copying everything that somebody else is saying, and they don't have their own vernacular or their own way of expressing themselves,
mhm,
and they copy somebody else at a very high level, I just
mhm,
looked at that as a form of weakness. Like you're weak-minded. You are a
mhm,
follower. You don't have any conscious thoughts coming from you.
mhm,
And unfortunately, that particular dude knew that because he's such a self-righteous narcissist. He is
mhm,
very well in order with everything he does in his life. And I
mhm,
can only imagine his wife's like. His wife must feel like she's a 12-year-old most of the time in that marriage. But what's interesting is that a lot of people would follow his speech patterns to the
mhm,
point where they're expressing that speech wherever they go, not just on the platform, but when they
mhm,
leave the platform as well. And
mhm,
that to me, I also look at it from a spiritual perspective. I look at it as casting spells.
mhm.
That person put a spell on you for you to behave like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what the person is doing when they're mirroring somebody, trying to take on all these attributes to look like or seem like they're at one with the victim, and I don't see how people with all the other things going on in this society, how do you have the time to study someone so much, that you want to be able to copy them down to their breathing, you know? I'm too busy trying to mirror a week before my bill's due date and line that up with my pocket. You know what I mean? What
Yeah,
do
listen, some people need some type of support. I can
yeah,
see how
that
this might be a
attachment.
positive thing to a certain degree. I'm not going to
Mhm.
discount that.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
personally, I don't really
Mhm.
need this. I've
Mhm.
used these tactics when
Mhm.
I needed to get something from someone, and
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure that I cover all the bases in the
Mhm.
selling, marketing, whatever
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
But for me personally, when I go on job interviews, man, I give them the raw, uncut version. And I'll be honest with you, when I have gone on job interviews, I put myself out there like you need me more than I need you.
That's
That's
it.
how I go to job interviews. I don't go to job interviews kissing ass. I'm
Mhm.
like, you either like what you see here, because it's gonna be fire if you hire, or if you
Exactly.
don't, it's like somebody will.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be an asset, one of the best assets you ever had at your company, or
Hey,
I'm gonna be at the competition. It's your choice. You
you
know?
know, Tom Brady, when Tom Brady
Mhm.
got signed,
Mhm.
you know what he said to Robert Kraft when he first met Robert Kraft? He
What?
said, I'm gonna be the best decision you ever made in this organization.
But that's the type of positive attitude and faith in yourself that we all should have,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. And you
Mhm.
know, based on
Yeah.
his success in the football, I think that that
Yeah.
that that statement was pretty accurate. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, but he didn't go into the meeting, "Okay, let me look at how this dude breathing."
Well, let's go to number 4 because we got more to cover.
Yeah.
It says
Yeah.
check for pacing. You should now check to see if you have used the mirroring technique correctly to psychologically connect with them. So after some amount of mirroring pacing, make a change of your own, like uncrossing your arms or leaning back. Okay, so basically it's just like keeping tabs on if you're doing a good job at mirroring or not.
Mhm.
It says if you have paced them correctly, they will follow your shift and now by mirroring you. And that, I've done that where I've done
Mhm.
it subconsciously where sometimes I'll cross my leg
Mhm.
or um one of the best ones is yarning. You yarn
Yeah.
somebody else yarn.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that's biological. But
Mhm.
let's go to number 5. It says
Mhm.
complete the mirroring technique and move to leading. It says you can now change your emotions to get them to align with you and initiate leading with the great chance of compliance. Okay, so
Mm.
that's called complete the
Ah.
mirroring technique and move to leading. So now you're going to
Mhm.
lead, right? Because now
Yeah.
you're getting them to mirror you.
Yes.
So it says number 6,
Mhm.
bonus move when pacing and leading someone. Do something great. Just prior to your request, provide a genuine compliment. This acts as a force multiplier and brings about even greater willingness to follow. Now, this is something they teach you in sales.
Mhm.
Um, this is something that I noticed that Ernie kind of does when I was
Mhm.
hanging out with Ernie at the restaurants.
Mhm. Mhm.
When he talked about how he used to flirt a lot, but he has
Mm.
this way of providing a genuine compliment that
Mhm.
comes off in a joking manner, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I wanted to tell him in class, I was gonna be like, Ernie, I thought whatever we talk about in Atlanta stays in Atlanta, but I guess not.
It's all over the internets.
So it says how the mirroring technique helps you psychologically connect with someone. It says the mechanism from a behavioral science perspective is that when you mimic and mirror someone, a strong sense of similarity and unity with you is created in their mind. Humans evolved to experience feelings of liking, interpersonal trust, and social bonding with people who are synchronized with them. Those are examples of that is dancing, singing, and marching.
Mm.
Cognitive scientists believe that these effects arise due to a blurring of the perception of self and other leading to this strong affiliation. That is so true.
Mhm.
It says neurohormonal mechanisms also play a role during synchronization with the release of endogenous opioids that encourage social attachment. And
Mm.
I would even go as far as to is a lot of this happens with physical attraction
Mhm.
between a man and a woman
Mhm.
and a man.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to go too deep into that because I can go deep into that, but um it happens a lot. A lot of
Mhm.
times in the business world, if a person who is deemed as attractive
Mhm.
or what the standard of attractiveness looks like
Mhm.
is going to have a better chance of being hired, especially for specific positions. Because
Mhm.
I've been to certain places And like even certain restaurants that I've been to,
Mm-hmm.
not all, but some, where it's like, if you don't look good, you can't work there. It's almost like you have to be eye candy for the general public in order to work there.
Mm-hmm.
So those types of connections happen as well, even though they don't list them here. But that's kind of what it's alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
It says this likeness leads them to liking and trusting you. The compliment lets them know that you like them, dopamine boost. It is a privileged state that they are cognitively primed to perfection, persuaded. I like that, persuaded. Let me write that down.
Yeah, that's and it's interesting. Let me see.
Let me write that down. Okay, so persuaded, pretty interesting word. I've never heard that before. It says, now the fact that you provide or use to justify decisions they have already made to be led by you. So this is the whole leading. It says like Renee Zellweger character in Jerry Maguire when she goes, "You had me at hello." Yo, that's one of my favorite movies, Jerry Maguire, man.
Mm-hmm.
Help me, help you. Help me, help you.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the Quan, brother. It says simply trying to be persuasive with someone at work through reasoning and facts alone will only make them argue and resist, leading to a low compliance. You must use the persuasion technique of pacing them first. Now it says
Hold
why
on.
reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on 1 second. Where it said there, now the facts you provide are used to justify a decision they have, or no, it was up of a, the likeness leads them to trusting you. The compliment lets them know that you like them, dopamine boost. And let me see. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. The next paragraph. Simply trying to be persuasive with someone at work through reasoning and facts alone will only make them argue and resist, leading to low compliance. That is the thing that Paul was doing. Just coming with the facts and what he knew and what he understood. And some people listened and some people didn't. But now this is going beyond that. You must use the persuasion technique, of getting to them first. So that's where you crossing the line with that persuasion. You using more than the fact. You using the pacing, you using the breathing, the movements, all of that stuff to build up this rapport, to basically enact a spell of unity on them. And once you see that you have it, you take them and pull them along with you instead of giving them free will.
Now, that is true, but I'm going to tell you something. The mentality of people today in this country, I can see how this is necessary.
Oh,
because people are dumber than shit these days, man.
On every
they
front.
They don't have a reasoning freaking microfiber in their brain. So I could see, especially if they're liberal. Matter of fact, speaking of that, I was interviewed last night on a podcast. And bro, let me just tell you, it was a pretty quick podcast. I think I was on there for 30 minutes. And nice lady, from Australia that was interviewing me. And she wasn't expecting what I was going to say. But when I started talking about abortion, oh boy, let me tell you, I got the feeling because after we finished, she was like, hey, I might have to kind of tweak some things here and give a little intro to this discussion that you went into, because she's like, I have a lot of mothers that listen to my show. And I'm like, oh, good. You have a lot of mothers. Well, let me say this and this and that. What do you have to say to the mothers? And I was like, well, I'm saying this and that. And when I asked her, I was like, so when are you going to put out this episode? She's
Never.
Like, oh.
But dude, it segues right into the next title of the paragraph.
Bro,
Why reasoning is
when I
rarely
asked her,
persuasive.
listen, and actually I still have to interview with her. She has to
Uh-oh.
reschedule with me. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna be interviewing her. So
Yeah,
we'll see if
look
that even
forward to that.
happens.
Look forward to that. Yeah.
But what's interesting is that you know what she told me? She told me that she doesn't know. She said most likely it might be 3 months from now, but she's not sure. So when I heard that, I was just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like 3 months from now? All right. You know, so that I took that like you said, never. You know, so I won't be. I mean, if she does post it, great.
3 months.
If she doesn't, whatever. But it's crazy how this liberalism shit has really gone way too far. One thing I notice about people who are very liberal, they can't agree to disagree.
Yo, but liberal means to freely give. Libertarian, which is where it came from, was live and let live. Don't bother me, I won't bother you. Now it's, well, we can't agree to disagree. You're going to have to agree with me or you're not my friend. I don't have
What
any
you said was
friends.
too harsh because that's what I
Yeah.
felt like. It was like, I was just basically saying that women shouldn't have abortions. But I said, I do understand that if a woman is raped by her father and she wants to abort that child, I can't say that she's doing a bad thing there. If a woman's raped and forced against her will to have sex when she didn't choose to, I can understand that. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but I can understand if that woman wants to abort that child, that makes sense to me. But I said, when you got women out here aborting children and using that method as a contraceptive, I'm like, that's a problem. Because those are the very women that shouldn't be having sex at all.
Yeah. Well,
but no, women should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies. So it's that whole thing, you know, not to go off in a different tangent, but I just wanted to mention that because that just happened last night.
So that's why reasoning is rarely persuasive.
And let's see why. The mistake
we just went over it.
It says the mistake people make when they influence others is that they directly try persuading them with reasoning and facts. That's all I was doing. But hey, however, new discoveries in cognitive sciences show that people are not persuaded by rational reasoning. I wonder why. Maybe it's because we become such a dumbed down society. But it says by irrational tendencies arrive mostly from their emotional state. That we live in such an emotionally unstable society these days, bro. You can't have a conscious, reasonable conversation with people these days because they're all in their emotions. And their emotions are as fragile as candy glass. Okay? I'm talking about this is the type of world we live in. You see it all the time in social media. You know, you got people getting, I mean, damn, there's kids that are so emotionally unstable that they're shooting other kids because they beat them in a damn video game. Right?
Yeah.
Like the little boy that shot his sister for beating him in the game. Like this is the type of world we're living in. But let's continue here. It says the leading theory called the argumentative theory proposes that reasoning evolved in early humans more for the sake of winning arguments than as a guide to effective decision making. You should never try to be persuasive with others at work by directly reasoning with them. And I'd say that's good advice because we live in a society where you have to be hyper vigilant. You have to be somewhat paranoid, like Brother Kakam says. You got to be spiritually paranoid because people are just emotionally unstable. They may not have intentions on trying to destroy you, but the moment they disagree with something you say, that shifts in their mind so they start looking at you as an enemy because you're not in agreement with their bullshit. Especially when it comes to this transgenderism and, you know, the alphabet gang. Let's not even go there because I don't want Facebook to cancel me again.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever find out what
no,
they? Yeah, of course not.
never.
So let's go back up a little bit to the previous paragraph where it says the
The mistake people make.
the leading theory. Stop. It's at the bottom now. Called the
Oh, the leading
argument
theory called the argumentative theory.
proposes that reasoning evolved in early humans more for the sake of winning arguments than as a guide to effective decision making. And that's the thing. The same thing that happened then is happening now. It started with there's no absolute. There's no absolutes. There's always a gray area. There's
Yeah.
no there's no this, there's no that, there's no solid platform to stand on. There is no yes and no. There's always, always, always an in between. All right. And that that is what happened. It tells you in Ecclesiastes chapter 7:29, God made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. So there was no gray area with God
Facts.
now or even in the beginning times. But as soon as they sought out different inventions of thought, of philosophy, they went off, and then all of this stuff started. And oh yeah, you know what? If I sound good, you know, or I'm louder, or I keep cutting people off, that means I win the argument, especially when I have people behind me saying, oh, look how they roasted it, and it boils down to this. I think one of the biggest reasons that we have this argumentative theory today is because we have reversed the definitions of words, because we have, for instance, angry people, one in the morning and one in the evening, angry, upset people, Karens, but both of their names are Joy.
You want to hear something crazy? That's what the lady was saying to me. She was like, but Aura, there's no right or wrong, is there?
Yes, there is.
She's like, that, and I'm like, well, technically, it's all based on perspective, right? Because maybe there is no such thing as right or wrong. But I said there is a thing between good and evil. There is wicked and righteousness. So I said, maybe there is no right or wrong, but there's something that doesn't feel good and the things that do feel good. There's a positive frequency and vibration in the universe, and there's a low frequency and vibration of the universe. That's a fact. That's irrefutable. And when you look at the scriptures and you look at the doctrine, when it comes to the Most High is operating on the higher frequency. Yep. That's the only way you can connect to the Most High. The Most High don't operate on low frequency, because that's where doubt, fear, and all that stuff that Luciferian satanic agenda wants you to live in. That's the news media, right? But the way she was saying it to me, like, there's a whole spectrum of things. That's that all-inclusive bullshit. And to me, I just chalked it up like she's from Australia. There are probably a lot of people like that in Australia, for all I know, because, every culture is different. But when I hear, bro, and shout outs to the brother Oxakai, he hasn't put out any episodes because he's been busy with work and stuff. And he's talking about getting back on the grind of his podcast. But he's got a podcast on my network called 101 with Oxakai. He also has another podcast called Alpha Talk Series. He talks a lot about this. He talks about how liberalism has ruined the relationship dynamic between a man and a woman in America because of this gray area bullshit, where it's like, no, is there really a right or wrong? Because if I feel what I'm doing is right, who's to say that it's wrong? And that goes into the do without will Luciferian doctrine that Aleister Crowley said that in the 21st century was going to take over the world. And he wasn't lying, because it has.
Yep.
And that was a high level a high level warlock, one of the highest level warlocks that served Satan ever in the history of this agenda and Luciferian agenda. But let's continue. It says most behavioral scientists now agree that trying to bring people to side only with facts usually fails. The effective way to be persuasive at work is to move people to a more receptive emotional state prior to influencing them, a persuasive state or sweet spot that triggers the primitive and more active decision-making processes. And let me tell you something. This is one of the reasons why I haven't reached 10,000 downloads a month. This is the reason why. Because I'm still learning how to get to this bullshit of being persuasive to people in their emotional persuasive sweet spot state. Because me personally, brother, I could give a rat's ass about people's sweet spots. You know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, the truth is going to set you free, homie. Like, if you don't like the truth, I don't know what to tell you. But you should be embracing it. But it's like, this is why in the scriptures, the soothsayers became so prominent. Because people just wanted to hear smooth things. And that is on steroids these days. People only want to hear what sounds good to them. They don't want the truth anymore, man.
I mean, it's all over the place. If you just want to eat meat, there's people that'll tell you all you have to do is eat meat. If you want to eat just vegetables, there's people that'll tell you that. If you want to, move to Iceland, there's people that'll tell you that. And people heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, meaning they just want somebody to scratch that itch. They want somebody to tell them what they want to hear. And when people figure out, like DT Jakes, for instance, figured out a sweet spot for a lot of people. The last I heard, it was like a 45-minute traffic jam getting in and out of his spot just to see this dude, and going around and, using the symbology and all this other stuff that he does and the scandals and everything, and other pastors in his league. It's amazing when you work for some of these people and you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get hired. But that's neither here nor there. But the things that they do, they figured out what to tell the people to make them think that they're getting something valuable, but yet they don't have to change what they're doing. And to make them pay for it. Oh my goodness, that's the sweet spot on a
Blue plate platter.
Yeah, 3-dimensional scale. You got the X, Y, and you got the Z. So you got that perfect point in space, that perfect bubble you got them in. And bro, it's like they got it. But see, that's the thing. You shouldn't expect that traffic or something, because these social media apps, they always manipulate the data. And the thing is, you're just making people aware. And once they get aware, that number will increase. But the thing also is, the wind blows where it wants to. And so is everyone that is born of the desire, to come back to the Most High. So it will get around. You just can't trust those numbers. That's all.
Now let's go to the and if anything else you want to bring out, just let me know. But I'm going to go now to narcissistic mirroring, okay? Because we just covered psychological mirroring and what that looks like. And that could be a form of manipulation with a positive intention or a negative intention. Either way, it's going to get you some type of results if done properly, right? But now let's talk about narcissistic mirroring, because this is all based on malevolent, wicked intentions. They ain't shit positive about this, what we're going to cover right now. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is that for the people that are listening, you have to be extremely vigilant and be so aware that you have to have an awareness that's somewhat paranoid. Matter of fact, I'll go even further. I would say that if you're somebody who suffers from anxiety, this might be a blessing. The anxiety might be a blessing for you, because the more anxiety you have, the less this is going to have an effect on you. When it happened to me, before we go into it, I knew that I was being mirrored, but I thought nothing of it. I thought it was a good thing. I thought, oh, look, my woman is mirroring me. She must think that highly of me, not realizing what the hell the purpose she was doing it for until later down the line, when, when the shit hit the fan and the shit was splattering all over my face. So lesson learned, right? Because if I was to see that now with a woman, I'm be like, whoa, pump those brakes. Don't
flag.
fast go. Don't collect $200. You know what I'm saying? Bye. Sayonara. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is what it says about narcissistic mirroring. It says it is a manipulation tactic used by narcissistic individuals to create a false sense of connection with another person by mimicking their personality, their interests, or beliefs. Mirroring means subconsciously mimicking another person's actions, body language, speech, and attitudes, which we covered. But they're doing it in a way to make you be like, you know, and I was watching this, like I told you, I was watching this podcast today with this ex-CIA operative, and I was like, wow, my mind was getting blown with some of the stuff he was bringing out in the way the CIA recruits, how they use and how they target people. And one of the things I noticed in this mirroring process that people have to be very careful is when the person is mimicking your personality and love bombing you at the same time. That is a potent dose of egoic euphoria for the person receiving that energy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a high, and I think that's, matter of fact, I'm gonna write that down. Egoic euphoria, because hold on a second.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I say egoic euphoria, because getting those two compound and intertwine with each other at the same time, triggering you emotionally to be fulfilled with this, what seems to be an overwhelming sense of affection, love, and admiration for who you are as a person. It could be intoxicating. But you got to be aware of it, because why? It's what I talked about with Akarai when we were talking about faithful friend and what that looks like in the scriptures, because you're not going to really know if a person really looks at you that way. So and this is for everybody listening, don't give them any credit when they're doing that. Receive it. Be like, hey, thank you. Keep it moving, because you're not going to really know if that's real until something goes wrong. And you're going to have to patiently wait for something to go wrong in order for you to find that out. Just the facts. That's something I do now. I patiently wait for things to go wrong when dealing with people to see if they're really about that. See if everything they think about me that they think is great about me, if they still feel that same way when things don't go according to plan or may go awry, or there's some downtime where things are not up and there's disagreements or whatever. But if they could still look at you like that, then most likely they're not manipulating you. They're not trying to mirror you. That's really how they feel. But but you'll find out when things go bad, because that's when they flip the switch on you and they become, that demon exposes themselves, which we'll get into too, because I was telling a brother today that a lot of people that use these tactics, they're really not that smart. What's using these tactics is those principalities working through them. Because why? We don't battle against flesh. We battle against principalities. And it's those very principalities that you're battling against. So it's not the person, the human being that's using this manipulation tactic. Because a lot of times, most narcissistic people, when you get to know them, they're not as smart as they claim to be. Even the ones that are smart, they're not as smart as you may perceive them to be. It is that demon or demons that are working through them. It's the forces that you can't see. That's why I always say psychology and spirituality, spiritual warfare, psychological warfare are all intertwined. Psychological warfare is the warfare of the mind that can be measured scientifically, like this, like narcissism. Okay, this, and that. But spiritual warfare is part of it, because all of this shit that's happening, the manipulation, this shit that you can't see that's happening, that's making that happen. There might be a 7-foot demon that's whispering in the ear, or literally using that person to do whatever they want, but you can't see that with your naked eye. And I'm just using that as one example. That's why I love the show Evil. That show Evil is phenomenal, because that show Evil shows you exactly that. It shows you the psychology of it and the spiritual realm and how it's all intertwined. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these types of people. Now let's go into this, because this is from Simply Psychology, right? And it says mirroring means subconsciously mimicking another person's actions, body language, speech, and attitudes. It also refers to other people figuratively holding up a mirror, allowing us to see ourselves and thereby giving us insight into who we are. But what it does is it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel like the person that you are is really that great, because that person is mimicking who you are. So it must be great.
So check this out, bro.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me. I'm sorry. We were doing this series, and on an earlier episode, you know, we weren't talking about it that much. We were like, you doing research on this area? Yeah, you doing research? Yeah, I'm doing it. And then we ended up at the same website.
That's that spirit, bro. That's that synchroning spirits.
So why do I have that page that you just read already pulled up? What is mirroring, and how do narcissists use it to manipulate their victims? The second paragraph, you just read it. Mirroring means subconsciously mimicking another person's actions, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here like, yo, wow. All praises, you know. And
hey,
that's
if you want to
thing.
continue,
no, go ahead. You pull it up. No, pull it up, bro. Pull it up, because it's some very, 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 very interesting stuff in here, man.
Very. So let's read the little small caption stuff I'm seeing here under this picture. It says narcissistic mirroring is a manipulation technique narcissists use to create a sense of rapport, trust, and connection with others. Wasn't that what we were just going over when it talks about the psychology of mirroring?
Yeah.
But this is why I say intentions, the power of intention is important throughout the universe, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah,
because even the way the Most High created this universe was all based on the Most High's intentions on what he wanted to create, right?
That's right.
So it's all based on intentions. So it says, check this. It says often to secure narcissistic supply. So that's where it's wicked, because they're not doing it because they're trying to win you over, because they care about you and they just want to be around you and love on you and, you know, be there for you. They're doing it so they can get that wicked narcissistic supply. It said it involves the narcissist closely observing and imitating the target person's behavior, as well as their interest, attitudes, and emotions. By doing so, the narcissist aims to establish a bond with the individual, making them feel understood and valued. And when I read that, I think about this piece of caca that sold Discord against me. He actually did a pre-episode to the Discord doing this exact thing and mentioning certain people's names so that he can kind of gain favor that he already had with them, but kind of really solidify it so that when he was going to spew his lying ass tongue about me to get people to hate on me, that they were going to be more welcoming to it. It was almost like primer. And you know this more than me, like primer paint when you paint in a car.
Put that
He
layer
was
on.
laying down that primer. Yeah. He laying it down thick too. Because he's a well-seasoned piece of shit. But by doing so, the narcissist aims to establish a bond with the individual, making them feel understood and valued. It says this mirroring can be quite effective in the early stages of a relationship. And honestly, brother, that's when it all happens. That's why, like what we were just reading before, it happens in the early stages, even with a job interview, right? Because you do it in the job interview. Before you even start the job, you got to start mirroring in the interview. When you go to a business meeting, you're mirroring in the conference room. When you go to a family gathering or somebody else's family's gathering, right? Let's say you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, or friend, and they're like, hey, come to my uncle's barbecue. And you come there and you gotta give that great first impression, right? Right. So 10 times out of 10, it's gonna happen in the beginning stages of a relationship. But it is usually dropped once the narcissist feels secure in obtaining the desired attention or control. So true. So true. That's when the mask comes off. Now it says we learn who we are through other people. I would say that's not true, but in this type of society, I say it is true. But I would also say that you and I learn who we are through the Most High, not through other people. But that's a whole nother story. A child needs others to form a view of themselves, which can result in healthy or distorted sense of self depending on early interactions with significant others. That is true, because as children, we don't know. So we can only go by the guidance of our elders, the guidance of our guardians or parents. And a lot of times, like mine, the guidance sucked. You know what I'm saying? So we have to find it as we get older. And that's what makes it even more difficult. But in this sense, mirroring is the information we receive from others about ourselves. Children also learn how to interact and behave by mimicking their caregivers throughout life. We mimic other people and learn from and adopt their behaviors, ways of speaking, and attitudes, which we covered, right? Now it says, for example, have you ever noticed that your speech or behavior changes depending on who you spend time with? Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time, right? Sometimes, and I've had people that behave a certain way around me than they do when they're around other people. Matter of fact, I had friends back in the days that used to sniff coke. And when I used to come around and I used to come knocking on the door, it was like, oh, hide that, he's coming. Put that shit in the closet or something.
Like you the
leave.
police. Yeah. Like
Right.
you the police. Yeah.
So that happens a lot, right? So it says mirroring is a way to build rapport with other people. For example, therapists are even taught to mirror their patients and clients. Mirroring is a tactic that's used a lot in business for people to gain clientele. It says mirroring their body movements, tone of voice, speech, and even their breathing, like we discussed, can help a patient or client feel more comfortable and connected to their therapist. So this is what I was talking about. I could see how that's a positive thing, because a therapist wants to succeed in providing positive counsel for their patient, right? So that's a good thing. It says neuroscientists have found so-called mirror neurons, which reflect back on action, emotion we observe in someone else via feedback loop in the brain. And it says, although their existence and exact function are still debated, they have been theorized to help with understanding other people's intentions, emotions, and states of minds, learning skills in language, empathy, and self-awareness. See, the problem is that learning skills of language, empathy, and self-awareness is a difficult thing for narcissists
Mm-hmm.
because they lack all those things. They lack self-awareness because their self-awareness is delusional. Their self-awareness is grandiose. Their self-awareness is based on a deep-rooted sense of self-insecurities. So they don't really have true self-awareness. They have a distorted sense of self. Empathy, forget it. You could just just cross that one out because they don't. They can fake it though. They can fake like they have empathy. All right. The only one that I would say that they do have is they do have language. They have skills in language. They do know how to talk you into submission. That's one thing they have. But empathy and self-awareness definitely don't have that. It says, okay, so this is pretty interesting, brother. It says the difference between healthy mirroring and narcissistic mirroring, right? So it says healthy mirroring is a natural and essential part of human interaction, which we just discussed. It allows us to learn, empathize, and build strong connections, like the therapist is doing with their patient. It does not happen through reason. We do not consciously follow this process, but automatically or subconsciously, in healthy mirroring, there is no hidden agenda. It is kind, respectful, and reciprocal. On the other hand, narcissistic mirroring refers to the mimicry that is self-serving and often calculated. And I slowed down when I said calculated because it reminds me of that demon that I used to lay down with. She used to be like, I'm calculated. I'm very calculated. You don't see how yeah. They are very calculated. And to me, it's like you gotta be very, very careful with people like this. Because listen, a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, they're dealing with these types of people right now, present day.
Oh yeah.
Calculated people. Be careful with calculated people because you got to keep a close eye on them. I'm not saying that every person that's calculated is going to be this type of person or a narcissist, but use a lot of discernment is what I'm saying. Now, it says, although narcissism is associated with a lack of empathy, narcissists seem to possess something that emulates empathy. Exactly. They can mimic us, learn about a person's weaknesses and vulnerability, and know how to make others feel validated and special. Wasn't that what we covered with that girl where she said she figured out people's weaknesses and vulnerability and then used it against them?
Yep. And learn their triggers and dose them with their triggers to manipulate them.
Right. And dose them with their triggers.
Yeah.
Now, this is the question that is asked. Why do narcissists mirror? What is the purpose on why they do this anyway, right? It says narcissists mirror for selfish reasons. That's the obvious. But it's not because they want true intimacy with another person. They mirror because they lack a true sense of self, which we just covered. They create a false connection to win someone over. They collect data that they can use against the other person later. And, that's something that I had working against me because the narcissist that I dealt with listened to like 300 or 400. No, at the time, she already had listened to about 350 plus episodes.
Wow.
So she had she kind of built a psychological profile on me based on my history of shows and got a lot of personal information because on my shows, I do share certain things. I'm somewhat transparent for the purpose of helping others not make the same mistakes I made or
Mhm.
just letting them know some of the transgressions I've had, but also my successes. But what she did was she took all of that, and then whatever I said that was something that was a mistake or some type of an addiction I had or transgression, she would bring that up later down the line and try to use it against me and make me believe that I was in that behavior,
Mm.
which I never fell for that. But,
Mhm.
doesn't mean she didn't try her hardest.
Mhm.
Now, it says, before we further detail why narcissists use mirroring, it is worth mentioning that all narcissists are the same. People cannot be categorized into neat boxes. The same goes for narcissists. And you
Mhm.
know why that is, brother? It's because the demons are all the same. The demons all
Mhm.
come from the same place.
Mhm. They just have varieties on them, but it's the same power trip,
Right.
you know?
The principalities are all coming from the fallen,
Mhm.
all coming from that demonic realm.
Mhm.
Narcissism lies on continuum.
A continuum.
Continuum. I
Mhm.
said continuum. Continuum. From low pathological levels. Furthermore, the individual motivations and personality can vary greatly. Although there's an overall pattern of behavior and mentality termed narcissism. Some narcissists have Machiavellian traits,
Mhm.
indicative of a more calculating personality. It
Mhm.
is more likely that this type of narcissist will mirror as a way to gather data which they can use against you later. And that's kind of
Mhm.
the narcissist I dealt with. But
Mhm.
the person I dealt with fell on a lot of spectrums. But not
Mhm.
all narcissists will do this, at least not consciously. Narcissism is generally associated with impulsivity, meaning that they do not necessarily have the ability to be over calculating or scheming, which is true.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know a narcissist like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just an impulsive dude. It's
Mhm.
just, he just opens his mouth and away it goes.
Yeah.
It says, in truth, they are not thinking about you. Their focus is on themselves. And that's the fact. These impulsive narcissists, they're so focused on getting their way, they're not even thinking about you at all.
Mhm.
They're singular minded. They're just like, I gotta get this. I gotta get this. It's like it's almost like that's a little mantra that's going on in their head. I gotta get this. I gotta get this. And until they get it, it
Mhm.
stops. You know what I'm saying? I got it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It says, therefore, mirroring might be a way to win you over and to adopt traits and behaviors that they believe will increase their superiority.
Mm.
Keeping this in mind, here are the reasons why narcissists mirror: to form their identity. Why? Because they have a strong sense of insecurity.
Mhm.
They're not secure with who they are as a man or as a woman or as a spiritual being having a physical experience. It
Mhm.
says narcissists, especially the vulnerable type, do not possess a stable identity. Their sense of self is a grandiose delusion, a fantasy, which requires the constant validation, admiration, and attention of other people. And that's why you're seeing this sickness spread across social media around the world.
Mhm. Need attention.
They need attention. If they don't get
Mhm.
attention, they don't feel adequate. They get they get the dope fiend itch. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta post. I gotta
Yeah.
see who's following. Let me do a selfie. I need to take a selfie right now. You know,
Mhm.
and it's becoming. It already is an epidemic. I shouldn't even say it's becoming. It is already there. It's been there.
Mhm.
I think that I was talking with one of my best friends today, and we were talking about how COVID, the pandemic, it traumatized the world, and
Mhm.
that trauma has it's like it triggered a lot of these types of people even further into their psychosis of sociopathic slash psychopathic slash narcissistic behavior.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
And it really did a number on people. You know,
Oh
people
yeah.
are still recovering from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's going to be interesting too, right? That now that they're claiming that COVID-19 is no longer a health emergency worldwide, according to the World Health Organization, which is a fact. So
Mm-hmm.
all this is going out to YouTube, to the staff at YouTube and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
That's not coming from me. That's coming from the World Health Organization director. All right. That's not coming from me. That is just a fact, just in case, in case they want to pull this channel. But that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it says the inner emptiness also means they use mirroring to form their identity. When they meet you, they may notice traits, behaviors, and interests that they believe will increase their grandiosity and superiority and then adopt these as their own. And that's what happened with me. She
Mm-hmm.
used my podcast and my platform in a way to build herself up, to give her more grandiose whatever. And I
Mm-hmm.
never forget, she was like, "Oh, ever since I told people we're together and they made the announcement, I got 250 followers on my Instagram." It's like, I'm like, "Hey, congratulations." I didn't know I was that popular. So she goes, or should I say, it says to win you over, right? And this is important here because to win you over, it for them, it takes a lot of work. And I know a lot of people are like, why would people want to go through all this work just to win you over? Because they got nothing else better to do. It's like what Dr. Ramani says. She said before the internet came into play and social media, a narcissist had to go to work. They had to go and find you. And they had to put in a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort to
Mm-hmm.
get you to believe them,
Yeah.
to get you to become their energy supply. She's like, now they don't got to do that. They just wake up, brush their teeth, drink their coffee, press power, and it's like, boom. They're going to get way more validation in 5 minutes that they can get in 5 days if there wasn't the internet. You want to say something, bro?
Oh no, I'm just, I'm reading along with you. This is amazing how people do this, you know, um, and it's all to serve themselves. It's
Right.
all to serve themselves, all to just get their desires satisfied. When they can't you know, form or have a sense of themselves, they'll take and appropriate your traits and behaviors, hobbies, interests, and stuff. That's amazing. And, they're not really secure enough in themselves, and they're not patient enough to look at themselves to say, hey, what do I like? And what do I want to do? That's
Right.
a lot of times that can be the start because it says in the previous paragraph when they meet you. So this is from the start of a friendship or a relationship, and they don't do it because they like you. Some people will take on what you say or do or whatever because they like you and they think it's cool. You know what? I never looked at it that way, you know? And then some people will do it because they think that's a superior trait in you. So they'll take it to increase their own superiority because they don't think that they are superior, but they have to feed on other people's things or traits or positives or whatever to be able to feel good on themselves. And that's really, that's just they don't have any faith in themselves. Is they're operating as a shell, and it's very important, that we do have some substance, when we deal. Now there may be other things going on, like if you take a while to make friends, or if because the scriptures do say prove a friend, but that's talking about a close friend. But I mean, just getting to meet people, you may have trouble, talking to people or stuff like that. That stuff can be improved with practice if you really are secure in yourself, but to take people's traits, behaviors, and interests to make you feel better, that's the only reason that you're doing it, is because you want to feel better about yourself so that you can look down on the person you got it from. I mean, what? That's like people, other people stealing cornrows and then looking down on the people that 10 years ago was the only people wearing cornrows. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's these things that, although it can make you look more attractive to somebody if this is what you're into, as time goes on, when they see that there's no substance to that personality or there's no genuineness, it becomes really hard to maintain a friendship.
Well said.
No praises.
Well said. Everything you said right there is it's like you should have wrote an article in for this page as well.
Well, I'm just using, the scriptures talk about how never let, what does it say? The Ecclesiasticus 11:29, bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man hath many trains. So you're not going to let that many people get close to you until you prove them as a friend, which is another scripture.
Right.
But the
Exactly.
deceitful person that wants to use you or manipulate you, they have many avenues, many methods, many calculations, many inventions, many strategies,
Many devices.
many devices. That's because that's what the scripture said. They sought out many inventions and devices, so many strategies, so and that's what makes this world so treacherous nowadays, is because everybody, or mostly everybody, has some type of angle,
Now, remember I talked about Dr. Ramani? So Dr.
Yeah.
Ramani, she's like one of the
Oh yeah,
she's
yeah.
one of the leaders of this, like she's up there. And they have a statement from her. It says, clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Dorvasula suggests that narcissists are masters of mirroring and that this is what makes them so attractive. So true. So true. Because when you're experiencing that mirror, it's almost like you can't find nothing wrong with them. You're just like, you're looking for, because I was looking for something wrong. I was looking. I was like, there's got to be something wrong with this chick. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. The only thing she had going for her, and I probably would have found it if I was around her more often, that I probably, that's what that gave her a leg up on me, was that we wasn't around each other physically a lot. So she had the upper hand there. I think that's why she got to, get away with certain things that she was able to get away with. Because if we was like, if she lived 10 or 15 minutes from me, it'd be a whole different story. But it says here, by paying close attention to you, they can emulate the perfect partner, colleague, or friend, and thereby win you over. By the way, I'm hearing some
yeah, I got it.
Okay. It says they can win you over as a new source of narcissistic supply. Especially at the beginning of a relationship. Narcissists make you feel heard, understood, and like they get you. That's so true. She argues that this is because they mimic your body language and behavior, which creates a connection. They show a seemingly profound and genuine interest. That's the love bombing. And then they highlight your strengths.
Love bombing.
Love bombing. They copy your hobbies and interests to create the illusion of shared values. And yeah, that's something that I got to experience a lot. It says they reflect back to you on how you would like to be seen. To be seen. This to gather data. This one is important. It says narcissist mirroring can play a role in their overall process of manipulation and control. A calculating narcissist might allow you to feel safe and understood to get you to let your guard down. Very true. when you share your fears, traumas, experiences, and weaknesses with them, they they pay close attention and weaponize this information against you when it suits them. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what this person did. Not only did she take some of the, because I didn't tell her a lot of private stuff about me, but she got to hear it in the podcast. She didn't really need to
Mhm.
hear it come out of my mouth. She
Mhm.
just took it from the podcast and make note of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, it says when you share your fears and traumas, right? In other
Mhm.
words, they devalue you by reflecting back to you all the things that are wrong with you. This process gives them a sense of control and superiority. And that's
Mhm.
why people like you gotta take, like, people gotta take time in getting to know
Mhm.
somebody.
Mhm.
And that time, don't put a limit on it. Don't put a timeline on it. There's some people that you might have to get to know for 2, 3 years before you really can feel like they're somebody you need to be dealing with like that.
Mhm. Well, this whole thing, it's a misapplication of information, this data gathering to use against you at a later time to devalue you. That's not how a relationship is supposed to be. And then being a certain way and treating a person a certain way to win you over. It is the responsibility of a good friend to keep this treatment up, because how you start the relationship is how it should be throughout the relationship. So if you're going to show a seemingly profound and genuine interest at the beginning of a relationship, you have to do that all the way through. If you're going to highlight someone's strengths, it shouldn't be just because the introductory phase, the honeymoon phase of the relationship. It should be all the way through. You should be there for them and say, if they're having a bad day, well, you can do this and you can do that. You've done it before, and and show that compassion. When they having a bad day, you shouldn't be saying, well, you ain't this and that, and this is why this happens, because you went and collected data on them and that this is a sore spot for them, you know, and you should, if you have certain hobbies and likes, if they're the same things, you can do them together and set time. But if they're different, you just can't denigrate their hobbies and interests, and uplift yours. There's a way to be a friend. Okay. And that propping them up and giving them the compliments and reflect back to the person how they would like to be seen, that should continue. That should not be like act one and then act two, you're a totally different person. Now you exposing your demon now, and then going into, if a person is going to open up to you, and share experiences and bad things and weaknesses and worries and fears and anxiety, you should be able to, you know, use those things in a way to help them get through these things or help them put them in the past where they're supposed to be. Now, nobody is perfect, and there will be times when people slip with the mouth and say, bring up something that may offend someone or bring out that sore spot from back in the past where they had told you that so nobody's perfect. That may or will come up, but you have to be able to be sincerely sorry for doing stuff like that. That's what a friend would do. A friend would make a mental note also to never bring that stuff up around you. I know a person was talking about something that happened to a friend of theirs, and they say, I'm gonna remember to never bring this up around them. I have to, because I wouldn't be a good friend if I did, if I forgot that, and a good friend is not going to try to devalue by reflecting the wrong things back to you or tell you about it. This is why you ain't SHAT, and this, I told you so and all. No, They're going to say, hey, listen, what this is, well, you know, you have this problem. This is how you fix it. Let's work on this together. Or let's talk to somebody that can help you. You know, I'll go to get the counsel or the therapy with you, you know, and walk people through and have their back. And that's what a true friend will do. But this is a fake friend, and all they're interested in doing is manipulating. They're going to get all this data to use against you, and they're going to take, and like you said, Lilith was her name, toxic something 01 or whatever her Twitter or TikTok handle was. She
I
was,
still can't get over the fact that her name was Lilith. But
yeah, exactly. You know, but she's going to, you know, a demon, you know, a hateful person is going to use these things against you so that they can manipulate you to an end that would benefit them. And I just want to read real quick another verse. And it talks about how a wicked person that appears to be a friend, how they would do. And Ecclesiasticus 19:28. And if for want of power he be hindered from sinning, yet when he findeth opportunity, he will do evil. So they're going to wait because they're not going to do you wrong because they still want that power. But when they find the right opportunity to take that situation and twist it so they can have that power, they're going to do that evil thing and do that manipulation so that they can have that power over you so they can lead you where they want. And it's all for their profit. That's why the scriptures talk about we have to prove a friend, you know?
Yep, that is absolutely correct, bro. And it says here, let's go with dealing with narcissistic. We're gonna skip something here because it says, what role does mirroring play in the narcissistic abuse cycle? We're gonna skip that. We pretty much covered everything when it comes to that. But it says dealing with the narcissist mirroring. So pay close attention to whoever wants to learn how to deal with a narcissist mirroring. It says the best way to deal with the narcissist mirroring is to identify it early and view it as a red flag. Bingo. We could drop the mic right there. The problem is that many of us, we don't do that. We keep going. We keep the fantasy of this individual, of what potential they could be, instead of being present with who they are and realizing that that's what you're dealing with. Get this fantasy out of your mind. Know the red flag, and the first red flag that pops up, keep it moving. Cut it off. Because the reality is there shouldn't be any red flags. Period.
There shouldn't.
A few signs of narcissistic mirroring include other love bombing behavior. Their efforts to get to know you seem very intense. They put a lot of pressure on you to share private information. That's a huge one. Okay. They do not respect your boundaries. And that's another thing. If you're getting into any type of relationship, you better know how to have boundaries. Because if you don't know how to have boundaries, which I didn't at one time in my life, now I do, then you're going to be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. And you're going to be deep in some shit that you're not going to be prepared for because you didn't set the proper boundaries in order to deal with people and let them know certain boundaries. Like the lady said that I had on the show. She said, boundaries are like doors. You got to let people know that if they're coming in, they're coming in under these conditions. And if they can't meet those conditions, then you can't come in. It's the same thing with the faith. Like we was talking about yesterday. A lot of people think that the Most High is unconditional love. No. The Most High has conditions. And those conditions, if you can't meet them and you can't be faithful to the word, then you can't be with him. Period. And he ain't going to be with you. It says, you notice that they are copying your behavior, interests, and attitudes. So this is how you deal with them. You got to be aware, right? This is the network of awareness. So be aware. Becoming a Awarian, right? Those are my followers. I call them my network of Awarians. So if you suspect someone of narcissistic mirroring, the best advice is to disengage with that person immediately. Keyword, immediately, and disengage. If this is not possible, strong boundaries are required.
Bolt
And
the
that
door.
means that, you know what they're talking about, right? If it's not possible, that means if it's like somebody at work that you got to deal with, because, you know, you can't get them fired, or your mother, your brother, your sister. And listen, as an adult now, I cut off certain siblings already. It says, if you suspect someone of narcissistic mirroring, the best advice is to disengage with the person immediately. If this is not possible, strong boundaries are required. Establishing and maintaining strong boundaries means that they will be less able to mirror you and gather the information they can later to weaponize against you. If you do not disengage early, you might get sucked into an abusive relationship. Very true. This is why it's so important that the first red flag that presents itself, I did a show, people. It's called No More Benefits for the Doubts. It was part of season 5. I'd strongly urge that you check it out. Matter of fact, no, I think it was season 4. I did an episode called No More Benefits for the Doubts. I think I did a part 1 and 2. Check it out, because that is filled with tons of information on how to set the proper boundaries and to recognize the red flags and to be able to walk away cold turkey without having any attachment. It says, if you are already in a relationship with a narcissist, they might be using your trauma and all the things you feel self-conscious about against you. In this case, it might be best to leave the relationship. A person who truly loves and cares about you does not use your vulnerabilities against you, like you was mentioning, Ahban. Their interest would be in building you up rather than pulling you down. It is important that you work on your self-confidence so that the beliefs you hold about yourself are robustly positive, or at least realistic, rather than distorted. True confidence means that other people's words and actions cannot make you what does that say? Cannot
Doubt
make you doubt
your worth and self and esteem.
There you go. It says true confidence means that other people's words and actions cannot make you doubt your worth and esteem. Therapy, self-help books, and online resources can be helpful avenues to try. And also the Most High. So, that's that. That's that on that article, right? Because you're there too. You're mirroring me on the article. You mirroring me on the article.
Yeah, it's amazing how we both got led to the same article. You know,
absolutely, bro. So with that being said, I don't have nothing else, man. Do you have anything you want to lead this broadcast with? Because we're reaching up to 2 hours, so I think we spent enough time on this mirroring and this narcissism installment series. Mirroring, the manipulation of familiar persuasion.
Yeah, there's one place I want to go to, and it is Colossians chapter 3. I'm going to pull it up now. Colossians chapter 3. And let me see. I'm going to bring the screen up. And I should have actually never took it down, but here it is. Okay. So I want to look at Colossians chapter 3. And we're going to go down to, where are we at? 22. So let's go down here. So it's talking about different ordinances or commands. This is not advice. These are commandments, laws in the New Testament, you know, some for wives, husbands, children, fathers, you know, parents. Okay. Now, servants, these are people that, you know, like are at work, or if you're in a position where you have to serve, you know, in an industry or something. But since we're all supposed to, you know, be servants to each other, This can apply to all of us also. So this is talking about servants obey in all things your masters according to the flesh. So you ain't supposed to be threatening the boss, and just going off, I'm gonna blow this MRF, having the police called on you and all this other stuff at the job. All right. But the important part that I wanted to pull out of this verse is when you do this service or this interacting with people, and this part is, it applies to people working on the job, but it also applies to everyone else out there. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. So you're looking at how you deal in relationships, because we should, in the relationships we have, we should be serving each other to, be a faithful friend, which is another show you did. I think it was back in, I want to say November or October in last season. We should be fearing God, excuse me, I'm sorry, and knowing the consequences of what we're going to get, if we do wrong. But we should be willing to do it sincerely, not with eye service. And eye service means doing something as long as we're being seen. That's the love bombing. That's the feigned or fake respect or reverence. That's the shallow pleasing or the shallow love bombing.
Or giving
Okay.
people money online and filming it.
Yeah. Not with eye service as men pleasers, because we're not here to please men, to make them think highly of us so we can manipulate them. But in singleness of heart, meaning we're it's one faith, one Lord, one baptism, one Lord, one Father above all. All right. Fearing God. So we have to be on one accord with them. And then also 23, and whatsoever ye do it heartily, meaning do it with all your strength. Do it like you mean it. Don't be shallow and fake. Do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. So we not trying to manipulate people and make them think highly of us when we really want them to think highly of us for the manipulation factor. Do it as, listen, I see the Lord in you, so this is what I would do if the Lord was my boss, or this is how I would treat my friend if the Lord was my friend, or this is how I would treat my wife if the Lord was my wife. No homo. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? So, and then from there, verse 24, knowing that of the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ. So that's what Paul was talking about in 1 Corinthians 9, when he was talking about, listen, I'm free from all men. I am free from all men. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm not trying to manipulate it or get anything unrighteously from you. I'm not trying to deal with you for my profit. All right. Because he was serving the Lord. And when we deal with people the right way, we get a reward from the Lord. So that's what it boils down to, man. We just got to look at these things. And, they have this science called psychology and everything. And it has been weaponized on a mass scale against the inhabitants of this society at this particular point in time. It has been for quite a while. But the Bible, written thousands of years ago, describes ways to see this and see these personality traits or spirits and to deal with them. But most importantly, to exorcise them from ourselves according to the understanding of Christ, as it is written, of course. All right. So that's just all I wanted to say. And, and then also, as I did at the beginning, I want to give all praises to the Most High through Christ for us being able to come out here and go through this topic.
Yep, absolutely, bro.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I want to
Mhm.
thank everybody who tuned in. I want to say peace and blessings to everybody until we meet again.
Mhm.
And let's give a nice little outro here. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I feel like spinning the floor right now. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna say thank you for everybody who's been supporting the show. Don't forget to subscribe to networkofawareness.com if you haven't already. Great things coming in the near future. Season 6, just to let y'all know, season 6 is coming. And season 6 is called The Light Within and Around You. So it's going to be a banger. We're going to be changing some things up for season 6 too, as far as topics that we cover. So when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look at the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up that tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is All the Informationalists, saying peace, love, and light with Brother Ahban, and shalom.
Shalom.
Just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness.